Welcome to the How I Started Career Stories podcast, where we will interview CEOs, entrepreneurs, and company leaders to hear how they got to where they are on their career journey. We'll talk about the early days, the setbacks, the risks they took, and ultimately how they're using their learnings now and into the future. I'm Andrew Kappel, your host. Let's get started with this week's episode. Hey everyone, welcome to beautiful Rhode Island, where our guest today and myself are both situated. Greg DiFraia, the CEO of Inlayer, is joining us. And Greg, I don't want to spoil your career journey, so why don't you do a quick introduction and then start talking about some of the early days.
Perfect. Well, thanks for having me. A pleasure to obviously to get to know you as well, being in the smallest state in the country. It's nice to have some friends in the home state, so that's been great. On the career side, I've been in kind of the technology sector for north of 20 years now. Got my start working for some resellers and integrators that did server and storage. Some call them value-added resellers, et cetera. So I did a lot of work with like Compaq and digital and HPE and then moved into the manufacturer, the vendor side. In 2004, I was able to join Dell EMC, and I had an amazing career there. Obviously, you guys know we acquired VMware. We did some amazing things. I think when I joined, it was like 20,000 employees. When I ended up leaving in 2017, it was upwards of 200,000 plus employees because of the acquisition by Dell. Which was a great ride. And then I joined a few startups, Turbonomic and Scality, and now Inlayer. And, have gone through technical roles, sales leadership roles, operations roles. I've been fortunate enough to wear a few different hats, and which allowed me to develop different skills that allowed me to progress my career. And, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been always thing, which is kind of what I was always looking for, is to always be kind of pushing the envelope or blazing the trail. And, I think throughout my career, I've had that opportunity to do that. And, obviously for me, I'm extremely fortunate to have that opportunity for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be great to talk about some of the influences who have helped you on the journey. But Greg, I noticed that your undergrad, your college degree is in marketing. And at Dell EMC, you had a role as a field CTO. So how was that going from a non-technical into a more of a technical role?
So I did minor in computer science, I guess you would say, when I was at Johnson & Wales. So I kind of had a little bit of both there. But early in my career, when I was working for some of the partners, I took advantage of taking a lot of the vendor trainings and certifications. And I noticed really, especially getting out of the gate, is if you're going to be a trusted advisor for customers, is that you got to bring more value to the table. And a lot of that value in our industry comes in the mode of technical knowledge and technical know-how. So you need to have a certain level of depth of understanding your craft and your offering and how it compares, and be able to go deeper. And, just like in baseball, you have your 5 tool players that can do everything. They can run, they can throw, they can steal bases, hit for power, and so forth. I was looking at a lot of folks that are in either my company or my ecosystem that seemed like the top performers were the ones that could really, any type of situation, be able to hold their own and excel at it. Which means, for me, building my career is you got to put the time in and get out of your comfort zone and lean in on things that, you may, right, get on the skinny branch a little bit. And, for me, as I spent a lot of time with the technical people really trying to understand and digest that, and still honing my skills as a go-to-market person. And, that allowed me to develop and get the proper certifications to get to those technical roles, where if I didn't invest in that earlier in my career, it would have been extremely difficult for me to go there, right? But that was really kind of my career goal, was to be someone that was well-rounded, not just a seller, not just an ops person, not just a technical person, but someone that could bring a lot of those skills to the table and go levels deep in any area.
Absolutely. Greg, talk about your journey at EMC. How you started and kind of how you navigated over a decade-long run there. Maybe some of the different opportunities you had, some of the folks you work with,
Sure.
et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing time. I had extremely great mentors. There were people that would spend, time with somebody like me that was early in my career. And, I was fortunate to kind of get into the inside sales team that covered, the mid-market segmentation, which was an emerging segment for the business. And I had, some leadership roles there, and I turned into a strategy role, and then moved into, kind of the field sales organization and leadership roles, and then field CTO in the platform of object storage. Throughout that journey, I was definitely challenged professionally, which was great. Right, I had a lot of really unique projects I was able to participate in. And when you work in those cross-functional groups, you get exposure to some amazing people. And you get to obviously learn from them just by interacting, but you also can gain mentorship. And, one of the things I loved about being at EMC was that everybody was really accessible. So leadership would always take time to meet with people that asked, right? And if you had an agenda, what you wanted to do, et cetera, like you did that, they would make the time for you. So like I had amazing mentors like Ed Philippine and Jim McInerney. They were part of my group that I worked for that were, certainly spent the time and invested in not only myself, but others, but, Linda Conley, Mark Thurmond, and the list goes on of people there that I would regularly have time with them. And I would, have a development plan is, kind of where I was and where I wanted to go. And there was things that I needed to do to get to, the jobs I wanted down the road. And they're always really great about being mindful of what are you looking for in terms of your second or third gen. What do you want to do? What are you passionate about? Where you want to go? Then it's, what types of things you need to do to get yourself in position, right? What trainings do you need to do? Who do you need to get mentorship from? Whatever it might be, what certifications may you need? Maybe it's relationships. Well, so-and-so runs that group. And if you really want to line into that group, then you should be looking to kind of start spending some time over there and getting acquainted with the team and then kind of working that methodically. And, everybody had all these amazing words of advice and things that have helped them with their careers that I've leveraged. But also it was just, sometimes you get so locked into the day to day and like I get this meeting, that meeting, that meeting, that meeting, that meeting. And then you pick your head up at the end of the week or the end of the month or the end of the quarter is, did I do anything to better myself? Did I take some time out to train a new skill or learn something new or do something different? And those are the things that, a lot of those folks had, but they had amazing drive. They were obviously smart. They worked hard, passionate, but they always found ways to get time for themselves to improve themselves in a particular area. Right? And I think that was something that resonated with me. And that's something that you as an individual can control. Like that's what you can own. And you got to take that investment in yourself and take that to heart and be selfish with that and continue to build your capability as a person and as a professional and make sure it applies directly with your career path and your career goals and also life goals.
Absolutely. So, Greg, in the roles you've had since Dell EMC, talk about some of the development, the relationships, or the opportunities that you've had since then, because you've had a
Sure.
interesting trajectory from the big Dell EMC to slightly
Sure.
smaller and smaller organizations. And there's no knock on the smaller type of an organization, but how did you have to
Right.
shift your strategy and change your approach?
Yeah, I think, for me, I always like to build things and be more on the innovative side. And, like I said, like when I was at Dell EMC, I was part of a group that built out a new market segment called SMB, and I was part of that team that helped bring that to market. And that was obviously a lot of fun. There was a lot of strategy, technical, business, price bands, go to market, messaging, packaging, like lots of different things that we had to navigate through to really position ourselves well there. And then I joined a team that launched the Atmos, which was an object storage platform that was built in-house. And then I was obviously in the leadership side. We launched ECS and ran the go-to-market team and was field CTO. I've always been kind of a group, whether it was in a big company that was really kind of on the innovation side of the house, doing something new outside of the core, we'll say competency, if you will. Like I was always in that emerging technical group, solving unique problems and taking those things to market. So a lot of the things that I learned there applied into the startup world, because you're in a very similar position where you're in a disruptive mode. You're going into a place where you may not have, whether it's a market segment or a technology or a product that you're going to go disrupt. And I had experience with that, obviously a little bit different when you're backed by a large tech company. So that part's a little bit different. Yeah. But like when we came to Turbonomic, a lot of my relationships, obviously at Dell EMC, we worked with them, right? And a lot of my friends were ventured off into other places like Cisco and other places, and partners and others, right? So the relationship and your network is wildly helpful, right? Because typically people don't stay in a particular place for, I think the average of 3 to 5 years is long these days, right? So it's important to have those personal connections, because your network and your alignment to your network is huge amounts of help to you when you are trying to be a disruptor, because your network can help you scale your business, and you can also help them scale what they're doing as well. It's really something that you can take advantage of if you have a strong network. But there's a lot of things that you learn that transfer, but there's also a lot of things that I didn't know that once you're in the fight, you learn very quickly, or you identify, and you got to find a path and find a way. And just like at Dell EMC, I had some amazing mentors and leadership and folks to lean on to help me navigate that. But like, when we're at Turbonomic, I mean, great product, solved a humongous problem, and that company ended up exiting to IBM and did extremely well. And we did a lot through our channel and through alliances, and that was my role there, was really to help develop the alliances. And there's just lots of things around just the company and funding and alignment that maybe you didn't see at a bigger company. And it's like I said, it's still baseball. I'm used to playing third base, but maybe I'm playing right field. And I'm not playing for the Yankees, I'm playing for the Kansas City Royals. But you know what? The Royals did win. And other teams can win with different payrolls and different structures. You just got to play the game and identify it the right way. But I always like that challenge. Professionally, it's fulfilling. Is to be a disruptor is fulfilling. And whether it was there or when I was at Scality, in my current role with Inlayer, is being a smaller company that relies on partners in an ecosystem is different than working for an organization. You're a division of a company that has 100,000 plus people. Getting other people to work with you that don't have the same badge as you is a lot different than if they do have the same badge, right? And that's one of the big things is with the startup community, is you have partners and alliances. And a lot of the functions that maybe in a bigger company or within your control are not in your control anymore. So the way you approach partnering, the way you approach aligning is a little bit. And then lastly is obviously, depending on the situation, is funding is, everybody participates in fundraising. I'm obviously right now is a big part of my role is not only helping the company with brand and selling and growing and all this in the strategy, but also helping with raising capital. And I never had to raise capital when I was at Dell EMC or even when I was at Turbonomic, right? I participated a little bit at Scality, but for me, this is a newer thing for me, is really putting myself on the skinny branch and using all the skills I have, but leveraging my network and my mentors, who are still, many of which I still talk to over the past 20 years, is for assistance and guidance and help, because many of them have gone through that same career progression and journey. And I'm able to kind of leverage that too. So therefore it helps me, kind of daily and weekly improve and get better, and, help me hone some of the newer skills as being now a CEO. I need to have, right. And, like any role, there's a growth curve and knowledge curve and things like that. But there's obviously a lot of things that you already have in your resume and in your portfolio that help you execute today, but you got to understand your weakness and be honest with yourself and take action against it, because that's something that you've got to own personally.
Yep. Greg, so now let's talk about going from general manager at Scality, and what gave you the urge to jump over to Phonism and then now Inlayer. Let's talk about the current role and the progression.
I think it was just a unique career opportunity. So I started my career at smaller companies, in the partner community. Went to a larger company with Dell EMC, and that really skyrocketed and merged into the Dell organization, which was, again, a great career journey, and learned a lot of things. From there went into Turbonomic. I think it was about 250 to 300 employees, smaller, but founded about 2009. But they had a lot of established customers, partners, and other things they've been selling for almost 10 years before I arrived, right? And similar to Scality, when I joined there, had been into market, 10 years or so, was multiple series down in terms of fundraising, and had brand awareness, was on the Gartner Magic Quadrant, had achieved a lot. So although it's still on the ramp up, there's a lot of things that were kind of shaped before I got there, which they've done an amazing job and continue to do an amazing job, is that, with the opportunity I'm at now at Inlayer, is to get in early, like really early, seeds, and start to shape, that strategy and that trajectory. And that's just a different challenge, right? And for me, is, when I came into Phonism, we're a one product company. We had a segmentation of telecom that we're really focused on. But really what we've done over the past year and change is that we've really evolved that. And what I mean by that is, if you look at now, our company name is called Inlayer. It's not Phonism anymore. Our product is Phonism. Yeah. Inlayer is a SaaS platform of APIs that help people manage network connected devices broadly across all market segmentation. And Phonism is really a telecom product, really kind of top to bottom, for things that connect to like UCaaS and voice systems and other things. So things like phones and gateways and ATAs, very specific. But the IP that we built can be applied a lot more broadly across a much wider market segmentation, and solves a real problem for folks that are, either an application or a manufacturer of hardware, get to market, provide an improved customer experience. So we've evolved that story, and we're executing against that. And obviously those are things that early stage companies will do, is typically you kind of hone in our product and our proof of value, you prove it, and then you branch out from there as we work through that evolution. And that's kind of what we've been doing. And again, is, you really get that type of opportunity coming into an earlier stage company, whether it's at seed stage or sometimes or even at stealth. And, for me, is when I learned about it, and I learned about it through one of the investors, a really good friend, and said, hey, this is what we're building. This is what we're doing. Here's where we're at. I think, one, you can team, and two, there's a career path. Would you like to learn more? The answer was yeah. And it took me a while to make the decision. I just didn't, let's go. It was, I needed time, because these are big decisions, especially when you're kind of going to an earlier stage company. You really got to understand what you're getting into and like the real specifics. And it took me over 6 months to kind of learn it, understand it, and then see how I applied to it and my skills applied, and then ultimately the decision. So one of my mentors from a long time ago, Ed Philippine, would always say, are you running from something or are you progressing to something? And I often see a lot of, people in my network. Sometimes it's like, the house is on fire, so I'm going to run over here and I'm going to go to this thing.
Yeah.
And
Are you bringing the
that's gonna
flames
work
with
out.
you? Right.
Right. So you never want to be in the situation where you're running something. And I had a great situation at Scality. I'm still friends with everybody. I was talking with the founder last week on a number of different things, and at the end of the day, a lot of folks understand is that there's career opportunity to take advantage of, and that was just a different one. And for me, because I had my plan is ultimately I wanted to get to a CEO role. That's something that I aspired to get to, and I was doing a lot of things to being a GM, a sales leader, a CTO, and other things, trying to get my skill set to the appropriate level. Is that I joined Phonism / Inlayer as CRO and then progressed into CEO. And for me, I wasn't, I think that was for me the proper career path for me of what I wanted to do. And yes, this is the earlier stage company, but also I had an ability to get in early in shape, but also align my career accordingly to what my plan was. And that's something that for me is not something that was done on a whim. That's something that's been planned out for many, many years, and there's lots of steps to get there. And I think for most is having that plan and understanding your steps and progression is the most critical thing, and that you follow through on it.
Absolutely. Greg, in terms of the CEO role, what do you enjoy most about it? And then we'll talk about some of the challenges.
I mean, the most is it's so I never want to say is at the end of the day, someone's going to make a decision on something, right? You got to take the information and you want input from the team. Do you go right or do you go left? And is having control of that decision solely, right? Because I think that's big, whether it's financial, technical, is it how we're hiring or who we're hiring or strategies or message, like all those things that pertain to the company, policy and strategy. I think having those things is important, but I think you got to do it in a way that is inclusive, that solicits the appropriate feedback to make sure you get the 360 of that view to make the proper decision. But to me, like that's something that I do enjoy. And obviously when it comes to that is the people. Is at the end of the day, you have a duty to your people. Is that if you're running the business, it's like you have to have the proper work culture. You got to have, are people in a place to succeed or fail? Hopefully they're in a place to succeed and you give them what they need to be successful. But at the end of the day is the people are the number one thing that, when you see people amazing things and they achieve goals, or you see even life goals, like people get married or they have kids, and at the end of the day they rely on the company to provide for their family. That's why they're here. And I think sometimes like just appreciating the human element of the company and being part of that and is huge for me. Having the right work culture and the right people here with the right beliefs and acumen and all those things is enjoyable to watch and enjoyable to be a part of. So to me, I think that's probably the most rewarding. But I think having the control component to it is that, leading the team via feedback from the team and guiding the team down the path to me is extremely rewarding.
Yeah. Now talk about the team and like who, the types of folks that are really excelling on your current team. Cause it's just such a different organizational type and stage.
Well, I think at the end of the day, you have to be relentless, and relentless for the customer. So we have an amazingly talented group of people that bring unique skills in their discipline. They're all A players, but they're A players that rappel from rafters and do whatever it takes to achieve goals. And I think in a small organization, we were just talking about today on our company all hands call is, we've got our plan. Like this week, I got to do these 5 things, and this is how I'm going to do it. And that, whether I'm a seller, marketer, HR, finance, engineering, support, like whatever your discipline is, everybody's got their thing. But the things you can't control, the reactive things are going to come up, right? And how do you handle those? And our team is great about managing the reactive things that are important and time sensitive, but also keeping an eye on the ball and executing on the things we need to hit our company goals and propel the ball forward, like the big rock items, right? And I've worked for organizations that have had amazingly talented people, but maybe didn't have the work ethic, or maybe they didn't have the bedside manner when dealing with others outside the organization to provide that great customer experience, right? Because that's also important. If I'm really good at what I do, but I'm not a great communicator and I don't connect well and I don't have empathy, or I don't follow up on the things I'm supposed to follow up on, that ultimately misses the mark. So like to me is like we have an amazing group that embodies not only the skill required, but just the execution and the drive to get the job done, whatever it takes. And smaller companies is like you can plan, but you're also going to have things are just going to happen. Like it's inevitable. So how do you manage that, but still make sure that we get the things done that have to get done is hard, but the team does an amazing job of doing so. And, we're fortunate to have them. And hopefully as we scale, we get more that have those same kind of skills or those in those ethics.
Absolutely. Sounds like a good foundation. So Greg, to wrap up, what are you excited about the rest of 2025 and beyond?
Well, I think with our company, we're at a really unique time where we're really starting to hit our stride. So we're doing some great things with acquiring customers and growth and and those types of things. And I think that's something to be a part of is great. We have a pretty strong growth trajectory that we're going to power through as we wrap up Q1 and beyond. And personally is that for me is I'm excited about improving my skill as a CEO and adding some of the things in. So leveraging mentorship in my ecosystem to help me with that, and trying to take kind of personal steps forward to better myself. And I think for us is like I think it's rather simple. Is we're going to keep driving the company and taking those steps organizationally, and I think so. A lot of the branding things that we're doing is going to continue to evolve, which is exciting. But personally, I want to make sure that I need to align to the things I need to align to make a resource for my company, and I'm looking forward to do that too, and to meet some of the milestones I've set forth as well. It's going to be a lot of work, but that's what we signed up for. We love that, and but I think it's going to lead to an exciting year. Hopefully, certainly from the professional standpoint, but I think one of the things is like it's very challenging sometimes when you're working for a company with this amount of growth and disruption is managing the work-life balance and making sure you spend the time to enjoy it and spend it with your family. And it's probably an area where I need to do a little bit better job. So that's one of my goals for this year is to make sure we do so there. But it's been exciting since joining Inlayer. We've done some great things. We're going to do some amazing things, and I'm excited for the ride. So hopefully you see us in the
should
trade
be a
rides
nice golf season coming up, and you can get down to Florida for your HQ down there. So sounds like that's a good way to get out. But Greg, where should we send folks if they're interested?
I'm the only person on ESTEF that plays golf though. So unfortunately, we went to Topgolf. I got them out there. That's pretty a non-invasive way to get involved in the game. But We'll work on that. Maybe that's one of the goals for this year, is to get the team
get out of the comfort zone.
Go play.
Yeah, get out of the comfort zone.
That's right. You got to get on the skinny branch, and you got to, let's play a round of golf. That would be great.
Nice. Greg, so yeah, for folks that might be interested in Inlayer, following the journey, where would you send them?
Certainly, you can go to Inlayer.com. It's a great way to learn about what we're doing. And we also have a secondary page, Phonism.com, which is the flagship product, Phonism. And there's plenty of ways to engage with us through those sites. And, for those of you who want to learn more, I urge you to go ahead and do so. And, certainly exciting times. There's, especially with Inlayer and what we're doing with the brand there and the API platform, there's going to be a ton of announcements about what we're doing there over the coming quarters. And, we're excited about really broadening that ecosystem. But Inlayer.com is a great place to start for sure.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks, Greg, for joining us, and stay tuned for another episode of How I Started. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you like the podcast, please subscribe and also share it out on LinkedIn or with friends, colleagues, or classmates who might like the show as well. You can also get the newsletter at leaderlev.com/podcast. You can find that also in the show notes.